election that can give an idea of a free and fair process. There are three major areas of interest from me in the Constitution. Remember, the Constitution in Article 260, 261, and 262 can be variously amended. So if Parliament allows me, I intend to propose to amend the Constitution with three bills. The first bill will be under Article 260. Article 260 talks about the articles that can be amended with the Parliament and a referendum. The second will be under Article 261, the second bill, those areas that can be amended by Parliament and local governments, district local governments. Then the third bill will be about those areas that can be amended by Parliament alone. My view, which is not a final view, is that if I bring three bills in that structure and form, then we shall be able to take care of the naysayers, those who say we don't have time, because Parliament has time. Local governments have time. If there's no time for a referendum, that there's a question that requires a referendum, then in my proposal, I'll propose that on polling day in 2026, there will be a ballot box for a referendum question, such that we can save time and resources. Then the government that will be formed will implement the results of the referendum. So that's why I'm proposing three bills for amending the Constitution. So when those bills are taken, maybe I could briefly speak about the key areas of amendment. One of the key areas for the Constitution amendment is restoration of term limits. We've spoken about that variously. It's something that I think has bedeviled this nation. Term limits were the minimum consensus of the 1995 Constitution. Remember, the predicate of that Constitution was to give this country a chance for the very first time in our history to change leadership through a free and fair process. Because the major failure of the 1967 Constitution was failure to enable the country to transition, to organize free and fair elections, transition from one leader to another. That never happened. So the promise of the 1995 Constitution was the possibility of a change through a free and fair election. When that failed, and in 2006, we amended the Constitution and removed term limits, that in effect killed that motivation. It killed the basic structure of that Constitution, and therefore, in my view, as a lawyer and as a politician, from that day we got a new Constitution, which is why it needs a major surgery to restore that promise and give the nation hope that we can actually change leadership. Otherwise, fistful funds for power is impossible. And in 2018, again, we tinkered with the Constitution and removed another pillar, which was the age limit. So for me, we need to restore term limits and even entrench them. Not just restore, but entrench them. Because the article that had them was fair weather, Article 105. Now we need to restore them and then even entrench them. The second area I'm looking at in amending the Constitution that will cause amendment to the Presidential Elections Act, the Parliamentary Elections Act, the Electoral Commissions Act, will be in the area. I'm introducing an idea to have a second tier of Parliament, the upper house. And the upper house will be chaired by a deputy president, who in my proposal will be on the ballot with the president. The idea of a president simply appointing a vice president to attend the funerals must stop. We must have a constitutional provision for a deputy president elected on the same day with the president. And I'm proposing the president and the deputy should not come from the same region. We'll chair the upper house, and the upper house, like I'll propose later in detail, will have only 39 members from the original 39 districts before the making of the 95 Constitution. I'll make provision for their purpose and role for the country. Then most importantly, and probably dicey, is reducing the size of parliament. We're among a Bani forest where it is domiciled. I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm a Ugandan, desirous of seeing this country transition and move to a better place. The size of parliament over time has been a major concern for all and sundry, including politicians who care. I am proposing that instead of having county MPs, we shall have a directly elected member of parliament for each district. Can be a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. So currently you'll have only 146 directly elected members of parliament. Okay? Then we shall retain the women members of parliament. So then you'll have 146 plus 146 plus 10 from the cities. But also I'm proposing that the women members of parliament should be elected by proportional representation. I'm going to put all these ideas in writing and you'll be able to read them and explain to the country. I want us to test the idea of having parliament in a hybrid manner, whereas the direct seats from the district will be elected by universal adult suffrage, the way we do it now, first past the post. For women MPs, I want us to test proportional representation, where for every party that has gotten a vote and in parliament, they will have a chance to have a woman MP in parliament. If you are NUP and you get 50% of the national vote, you should have 50% of the women in parliament. If you are JEMA and you get 10%, I'm not saying JEMA is worth 10%, don't get me wrong. They should have 10% of women in parliament. That is the idea of national building, that you even introduce through legislation, power sharing in parliament. Because the idea of winner takes all disenfranchises politics, makes it a game of eaters, a game of the powerful, you know. So those proposals and more to take care of the size of parliament. The size will be small, but even more representative of the political views in the country. So that is my proposal on parliament. So for the constitution, there are other ideas I cannot speak about now, they are lengthy, but that's what I will do. There will be amendments. I'm also proposing amendments subsequently, because of the constitutional amendments, to the Presidential Elections Act to take care of the issues that will arise from amending the Constitution. But maybe, very critical, in the Presidential Elections Act, I want us to amend two critical areas. One, in amending remember in 2018, we made an amendment to the Constitution to say that if a candidate is aggrieved after a presidential election, they can go to court. And we enlarge the time available for the candidate to go to court. Okay? Of course, we reduce the appetite of having very little time, and therefore the impossibility of getting to court prepared by enlarging the time available. Now, if you want to take care of the malfeasance that comes with, for example, arresting a candidate, remember the Honorable Kyagulanyi was held indoors under house arrest when he was supposed to go to court. Dr. Besigye in 2016 was held at his residence was supposed to petition. I want us to amend the Constitution further and the Presidential Elections Act to say that even a registered voter can petition court, okay, such that the appetite to arrest or detain would-be complainants reduces. Of course, that will come with other issues. I'm proposing, for example, if you're a voter and you want to petition, you must do a security deposit to court, that you don't simply go to petition to waste court's time. Like it is done in our civil proceedings. So it will not be a new thing in our jurisprudence. That is for petitions. Then secondly, the declaration of results legislation. Right now, when you vote for the president, you see, we vote the president and the members of parliament on the same day. In Masaka City, by 6 o'clock, you will have an MP declared, but no president is declared as having won Masaka. So I want us to change the law, because the same returning officer who declares members of parliament can also declare a winning president for a district. And that is closed and the certificate is issued. And what would remain is transmission of results electronically or otherwise to the national center. Meaning that if you're a candidate for president, you don't have to have heartache and ulcers over listening to results from Karamoja when the ones from Kawempe have not yet been read. All you have to collect are 146 DR forms of every district, and you'll know the results declared, probably plus the 10 from the cities. So the declaration of results component is problematic. I doubt anybody sane and sensible will reject that possibility, that we change that, such that, because you have a woman MP declared for the district, that same returning officer has all the results from the district for everybody, including the president. They should be declared there and then. That amendment should come. Then for the Electoral Commission's Amendment Act, I said for all of these, there will be a series of consequential amendments of other legislations. The Presidential Elections Act, Parliamentary Elections Act, and the Electoral Commission's Act. Two areas of concern for me to the Electoral Commission's Act. One is amending that act to make provision for diaspora voters. We have over 4 million Ugandans scattered across the diaspora, in estimate. And of the 4, close to 2 million are eligible of voting. I think Uganda has about 44, 45 embassies and missions scattered across. These should be polling centers. Remember, in 2021, the High Court decreed in a matter of Karari Stephen versus Attorney General Electoral Commission. Justice Lydia Mugambe decreed that it was unconstitutional not to make provision for people in the diaspora to vote. She also decreed that it was also unconstitutional not to make provision for prisoners to vote. So I want to propose amendments to the Electoral Commission's Act to make way for the possibility of diaspora people and prisoners to vote. All that was missing is how would they vote? It's not new. They vote in Kenya, they vote in Zambia, they vote in South Africa, in so many other jurisdictions. So we should not be lazy. We should be proactive. It is their right to vote. For example, the people in the diaspora contribute more money through remittances to the country than Uganda's biggest export, which is coffee. So how do you disenfranchise a people that actually sustain the economy to that extent? So Parliament should rise to the occasion and proceed to make provision for the voting of diaspora people and prisoners. Yes, when you are in prison, certain rights are curtailed, but civic rights cannot be curtailed. There are those that can be curtailed. I'm aware that actually in some countries, even conjugal rights are made provision for. Let's begin with civic rights. For starters, the right to vote. So these are very key issues to which I want the country to begin a conversation and make a decision. I want to invite you, when I'm ready next week, I'll lay and share with the country these amendment bills. They may not come on the same day because it's rigorous work. It's rigorous work, it's vigorous. And in the event that Mr. Mao and others have their own bills, we shall meet in the Committee of Parliament and see what they have. There is no contradiction. The job of a member of Parliament, the first call for any member of Parliament is to make laws for the good governance of the country. And this is the call I'm here for. And I want to invite colleagues, members of Parliament, to join me in this call. And I hope from both sides of the House, we should be able to hear from each other and speak to each other about these possibilities. I thank you.
I know some people want Uganda, but